Wow. I have to follow that introduction. Thank you. As I did in the first service, I want to take you all in. It's amazing to stand here. This was a seed that was planted over a year ago with Reverend David, because I said I wanted to be here and speak here. And first, I just want to say thank you to this community. This is a special place. I can feel it. I felt it yesterday. I got to meet with our incredible young professionals, Kinetic Ascent. They are awesome. They are here. Yes. And because I have this platform, I want to tell you that it is a phenomenon that young millennials have the opportunity to serve in the way they do, especially in our organization, because it isn't seen as diverse as it is here, and they don't always have the platform to be who they are and to express that in the world. And so the fact that they even exist is amazing. So give them the space to absolutely be, to shine, to grow. It's happening across the world. It's happening across our nation. I'm just proud that you have their group. So also, I have to thank Reverend David. He is an incredible mentor and pioneer of what it means to be a minister who's done a lot, who's done it all. Maybe not all yet, but he's been a great mentor to me, and I want to thank him for reminding me of my ministerial heart and for believing in my gift. So I've been on a speaking tour for the last 8 or 9 months. I just completed it, and it was called Sacred Amidst the Shadow. And I wanted to maximize on this incredible opportunity of the magazine to really talk about the sacred, the divine, finding the sacred in the midst of the dark places. So often in spiritual teaching and in our philosophy, it's very easy to brush things under the rug with really eloquent spiritual jargon. I'm sure many of you have heard the word spiritual bypass. It's really easy to say that everything's good and all is wonderful and my life is so awesome, and yet maybe there's something underneath that I've yet to see in myself that really needs my love and my attention. And that's okay. And so my talk over the last 8 or 9 months has been about the shadow and actually addressing it, looking at it head on in the face. You know, we live in a chaotic time. It is a time in the world of great turmoil in many parts of the world, and people would want us to believe that we are separate, that we are supposed to be living in fear and uncertainty. And yet I ask myself the question often, what is mine to do in the midst of that? What is mine to do in the midst of a world in the external that feels so chaotic and crazy sometimes? The chaos that is happening, and it's like the shadow is unapologetically reflecting itself back at us for us to actually do the inner work so that the outside and the exterior starts to shift and transform. And so what happens is when we don't look at that stuff, and when I say shadow, I mean the hidden and the disowned aspects of ourselves, the parts of us we don't want to look at, the places where we feel a little unsure, uncertain, the fear, the inadequacies that might come up in your life, the challenges that you face, and you don't want anyone to know you're experiencing it. When those things go left unseen, what happens? It comes out sideways as all kinds of things. It comes out as blame and projection. It comes out as depression, separation, fear, anxiety. And we bring that into our relationships and our communities. And so I really know that we need both. We need the light and the dark. And when we can move past the notion that the dark is a bad thing, that it's okay to look at it and then see the gift in it, that's where our true power lies. So the gifts, we look at the gift of what did this teach me? And maybe you're moving through a dark night now, and it's calling you deeper to cultivate a quality within you that is needing your attention. Maybe it's more patience, maybe it's more trust or surrender. Maybe it's more self-love. But what happens is we get to see the gift that lies in the darkness and take some self-responsibility, which is why this teaching is so incredible, because it aids us and supports us in doing so and looking at how life got to be the way it is. To take some personal self-responsibility for the way in which I show up and the way in which you bring yourself to everything that you do. And then we get to strengthen those faith muscles and cultivate the qualities we need to move through those experiences. Some people may think, life isn't unfolding the way I wanted. Like, this wasn't supposed to happen this way, right? We think we're in control. A lot of people, I was talking to someone yesterday about transition and how a lot of people are leaving the planet. Have you noticed? It's really interesting. It begs the question, am I living fully today? Am I living fully today? And how do I follow that inner light? Last July, I had the incredible opportunity on this tour to speak in our San Diego community, and I've been writing to an inmate for about a year. And he's been in the Donovan Correctional Facility for 20 years. And he's in there for the California 3 strikes law. And I made the decision that if I was going to teach about the shadow and the dark stuff, then I needed to see it firsthand. And I needed to experience that for myself. So I made an appointment to come visit him, and I found out that I was the first visitor he'd ever had in 20 years. No pressure. So I get up all my courage, and I make it down to the border near Tijuana, and I go through all these checkpoints and all of these different things I have to do to get to see him, and I get up to the counter, and the police officer says, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but he can't see you today. You have an appointment, but he's working." I said, "Do you understand how far I've traveled to see him? I live in the Bay Area. I have come so far. He's never had a visitor. Can you please make an exception?" So they waited a while, and they talked to the people they needed to talk to. And they said, "Okay, this one time, since it's the first time he's ever had anyone here." So here I am going into this room, having all of these judgments and these feelings and these fears about what I'm projecting I may experience with him and with the whole situation. And I got into the room, and I waited for him for 20 minutes. And I looked around the room, and I thought, wow, this is ministry. This is a moment for me to actually look at what I teach. Because most people would say that all the people in there were scary and it was a fearful place, but that wasn't what I felt. I felt a deep presence of love there. I felt a deep light there. People with their families, and I kept looking around thinking, it doesn't have to be like this. A moment in time that someone made a decision that was just out of alignment with their soul's highest calling. And so he came through the doors, and he couldn't look at me. And I sat with him for the entire time he had for 3 hours, and I paid for probably the greatest lunch he had had in a while. And he shared with me his story and how he was a foster child and how he came from a family that abused him. And so I got to see how his life ended up that way. And when I got out of there, I cried the entire way home thinking, oh my gosh, this has opened up something in my heart for people, especially who are incarcerated, because they're the unseen. They're part of the shadow that we don't want to talk about. They're the unseen ones. And so he wrote me many times after that, and he said, "Savanna, you've inspired me to live my life and to get out of prison. That's my next quest." So he's taken up a trade, and he's trying everything that he can to get out. He said, "I had forgotten what it felt like to have human contact and interaction." He was a gift to me, just as I was to him, because we were able to shine the light in the dark places. I believe that everything starts in consciousness, that my vibration and your vibration absolutely matter, that we are a collection of this one life, as we know, and we are affecting every individual and everything on the planet. So we get to look at, how am I showing up in that? What is my part? How do I contribute to a world that works for all people? And that is, we remember who we are. We remember who we are in a world that would have us believe otherwise. Politicians and media that would have us believe that we should be fearful of everything, that we are scarce, that we have lack, that we don't have enough to go around. There's not enough good to go around. We know this is not true. We get to create the new narrative. We get to create the new story of the world that we desire and want to live in. Michael Beckwith, the great reverend in Los Angeles at the Agape International Spiritual Center, says that the power within you is greater than the power within the world. The power within you is greater than the power in the world. And what that means to me is that I get to re-remember that every day. You get to remember that, re-remember that every day. The power within me and you is greater than the power in the world. When life feels hard and challenging and you're questioning, what am I doing? Where am I going? Why is it so uncertain? That's when we get to remember who we are. This divine spark, this divine expression of this one life. So a year and a half ago, I was asked by a minister who I've been working with for the last 11 years in Ukraine if I would go to Ukraine again to cover for her in this peace conference. And she asked me 5 days before the event. And she says, you know, Savanna, you know the culture and the language, and I don't have anyone else that I can send. I have an emergency, I can't go. Would you go? I said, well, when is it? She's like, oh, 5 days from now. I said, okay, wait. So you're telling me I have to raise all this money to get to Ukraine, a country that's actually at war right now, and a plane was just shot down in eastern Ukraine, and you want me to go in there and lead this peace conference without you? She says, yeah, I think you're qualified. And you know how in life things like this show up, and we are forced to listen to the inner voice if we're so willing. And you know how you have that little tap on the shoulder that's like, yeah, you need to go do that. Well, that's how it all unfolded for me. I said, okay, I was so resistant, but yet there was something in me that knew I needed to go, and I didn't know why. And I did not know what to expect on the ground once I got there. So I got up all my courage, and I'm at the gate at SFO. And the gate checker, I hear him speaking to the couple in front of me, and he says, enjoy your trip to Hawaii. It's going to be so lovely and so beautiful. It's so inspiring. You know what's coming. And I say, here's my ticket. He looks and sees that my final destination is Kyiv, Ukraine. He looks down, he looks at me, and he says, are you sure you want to go there? I said, I'm packed. I'm going. It's a go. We're doing this. No looking back. Yeah. Sometimes we are called in life to moments of a divine appointment, and we don't always know why. And we can't always explain the gifts or the experience that we're supposed to have. We just know that there's something that's pulling us. It's like this higher vision that's pulling us forward to do it. I love this quote by the great Howard Thurman, an incredible man, incredible soul preacher. He says, how many of you know, he gave a talk and a poem called Moments of High Resolve. Yes, it's beautiful. This is a snippet from it. In the quietness of this place, surrounded by the all-pervading presence of God, my heart whispers, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in fair weather or in foul, in good times or in tempests, in the days when the darkness and the foe are nameless or familiar, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. Keeping our high resolve on the light. And so I had that moment of high resolve. On the plane over to Ukraine, I get to Switzerland, and I start to board, and I realize very quickly as we have already taken off that there is nobody on this plane. It is half empty. And I'm thinking, nobody's going to Ukraine. This is not a good sign. I'm it. I was probably the only American on this plane, and I started to panic. And I started to make up all kinds of crazy stories. You guys make up stories. I made up so many stories about what could happen as I'm on this plane. And everything that I had learned over the last 13 years just kind of flew out the window. And I started thinking, the gentleman next to me was sitting there, I don't know, praying or something. And I was like, I need a new mantra. Like, I need to get through this for the next 5 hours. And so what did I do? I did the only thing I could remember, which was to go into prayer. And my mantra, some of you may know it, is there is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. And that life is my life now. And I said it over and over and over. And I got to Ukraine and was greeted by some dear friends of mine. I was taken into a wooded area for this conference where I was supposed to attend and run this conference. And on one of the evenings there, I did this experience called AB Love. It's an experience that if you have a teenager that you've sent to any of our youth camps, our Science Mind camps, they come back so excited and transformed by what they experienced at youth camp. And it's a process of nurturing where you give and receive love. And 11 years ago, when I first tried to do this process with young adults in Ukraine, all of them said, we don't do this in our country, we don't touch each other, we're not going to participate at this level. And you've got our teenagers here in the US who are like, no, I want to touch all of you, I want to be close, I want all this love. And so over the years, it's been really amazing to see people come into an opening, to being open and receptive to this process. And so basically what it looks like is we had on the ground, there were candles, lights all over the ground in a heart shape, and the sun was going down. And you have two groups of people. One group of people are in the center of the heart, and they have their eyes closed and their hands down at their side to receive love. And that other group comes in to nurture them with hugs and affirmations and energy. And for some, especially in Ukraine, this is the first time they've ever been touched, ever. And so you see the tears and the sobs and the crying. It's a powerful experience. And so I'm leading this process, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see a group of people walking towards me. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, this is a public event. What's going to happen? It's outside. Did they feel the vibration? What is it? And these little kids, probably 5 or 6 years old, run into the area where we're doing this, and without any instruction from me, they put their hands down, their arms out, willing to receive. It's like they hadn't forgotten who they are. They could feel the energy and the love in that place. Without language barriers, it didn't matter. And then all of these other people started to join us, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know where they came from, but what I found out later is that they were displaced refugees from eastern Ukraine who had no home. And so afterwards, I got to hear their stories. I got to talk with them and learn about them. And I asked myself, Savanna, were you put there by divine appointment? We don't always know. Just like in your life, you don't always know the next thing ahead. But you follow the light. You remember the truth of who you are. And you use your gifts. You give your gifts. The universe is always wanting us to express our best, our highest self. And if you don't bring your gift, then who's going to bring it? It's not going to be brought. And then the missing piece will not be part of the whole. You will be that missing piece. So your presence matters. Your gift matters. Carl Sagan, he says that every one of us in the cosmic perspective is precious. If a human disagrees with you, let him live. In 100 billion galaxies, you will never find another. So follow your heart's longing. We all have something stirring within us, and maybe it's something that has been repressed or not expressed, or maybe you haven't been given the platform to use that gift or cultivate that gift. But where is your focus? They say that the 5 people you hang out with the most, you start to become. So you might want to look at the 5 people in your life that you've been hanging out with. Yes, where is your attention? Where is your focus? Following the light is also about trusting the process of life. I know in my own life, I've often wanted to know what the destination was going to bring all the time, and Spirit's like, you don't get to know that in advance. You get to live in the unknown because that's the creative soil of where the infinite possibilities start to flow and come. And that can be a scary place for some of us, for most of us. I remember back in 2012, I was living in Egypt at a very volatile time. And I know my friends and family thought I was nuts when I told them I was going to move there right in the middle of a revolution. But I knew, like I said earlier, I knew that there was something I needed to experience. There was a depth that my soul was longing for. And it just so happened that what was happening in the world of effect in Egypt was happening within me. And I couldn't see that here in this country because I needed all the distractions to be stripped away from me so that I could see myself. I could see the ickiness, I could see the anger, I could see the rage, I could see all the stuff that I had held on to here. It wasn't until I got there and I was put in all this disruption and commotion and craziness and demonstrations happening constantly and being harassed every day on the streets that I was like, okay, I'm ready to look at my stuff. I'm ready. I'm open. I'm a willing vessel. And so I would go out into the market every day and get up all my courage. And on this particular day, which was not uncommon, there was a really, really large demonstration in Tahrir Square. And if you remember in the news in the Arab Spring when it happened, and Tahrir Square was like the place where the whole thing happened, where millions of young Egyptian revolutionaries came together for this cause. And so I decided to go down there, and my friend at the time was really concerned about me. He said, I don't think that's a good idea. You're not really safe there. And it's also been known historically that most of the time when women come to the square, anything crazy can happen. A lot of harassment and things of that nature. So I go down there and I witness an incredible thing. I see all of these women who have come to be in the demonstration, and they all have signs in Arabic, and they're all standing there in total silence. And my friend looks at me and says, you should participate in that. I said, oh, no. Like, I stick out, like, you know, no. They're the revolutionaries. Like, I'm good over here. And he's like, but you support this. You support what they stand for. So why don't you join them? I said, okay. So I go over. I'm the only girl who's not covered. And, you know, I'm afraid. I'm thinking, can I trust this? Because it's volatile. Anything could happen. And what was so amazing as I stood there with these women, and I knew it was a pivotal moment. I knew it was something I would never forget. All of a sudden, all of these men started to surround us. And they all had these orange neon vests on. And one by one, they started grabbing arms, linking arms all the way around us. And before my eyes, I realized that they were actually providing a barrier for us so that we had the place and the space to express and to protest. And it was the most beautiful thing. I'll never forget it. But it required my deep surrender to the process, that there's something bigger going on. There's something greater going on in life. When we don't get so attached to the outcome and attached to what it has to look like and just be in the moment, in the present now, and continue following that inner light, using your gifts, trusting the process that there is something greater than you that knows. The Bible says, the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Ernest Holmes says that if a spiritual treatment could be seen, it would be seen as a pathway of light. This light is not created, it pre-exists because it is the essence of who you are. Have you noticed in your life that everything you've experienced from here to here has made you who you are? Even the stuff that you hated or wished that you hadn't experienced, it's part of the tapestry that makes you who you are. The great mystics knew this. They knew that, in essence, everything is one. They knew that the one life flows through all things. And so what I want to invite you to now is something that I love. It's called The Invitation. It's a beautiful book and poem by the incredible author Oriah Mountain Dreamer. And what she said when she wrote this book was, the invitation is a declaration of intent, a map into the longing of the soul, the desire to live passionately, face to face with ourselves and skin to skin with the world around us, to settle for nothing less than what is real. And so I want to close with this poem, and I invite you to just close your eyes if you feel so called to take in these words. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own. If you can dance with the wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. If you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it's not pretty every day, and if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand on the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the moon, yes. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. So we remember the truth of who we are. We remember that we need the light and the dark. We trust the process of life and we give our gifts fully. We live fully today. Let us go within into prayer now. Taking that holy breath and releasing. Knowing that there is one thing happening, and that is the activity of love itself. It is a holy moment where the divine presence itself expresses in, through, and all of creation into my life and the life of every person here in this room. Giving thanks for the blessings of this day, for the power of the word, for the gifts, for the ways in which we get to heal, reveal more good, more love, more joy on the planet. What I declare and know in this moment is that each one of us is a divine expression of this one here to give our gifts into the world. And I know that we are supported and uplifted and that everything we could ever hope for and want and desire is already made manifest because we know the nature of life is wholeness. It is abundance. It is love. It is peacefulness. And it is deep wisdom and clarity. And so I know for each soul in this room that you were here by divine appointment to receive exactly what you needed in this moment. And I ask that you call forth now someone in your life. Maybe it's yourself, a family member, a lover, a friend, someone who may need a little extra attention this morning. Bring them into your heart now. Say their name in your heart right here and now. May we surround them with the love that is everywhere, the light, knowing that healing and transformation and wholeness is the truth of who they are and who you are. That this one thing that is happening is so inspiring and uplifting each one of us to step into our greatest yet to be now. That there is a healing and a health and an abundance and a wealth that is going on the planet now. We move away from the world of effect, of lack and scarcity and limitation and doubt, fear and worry. And we come back into alignment with the truth that we know with a capital T, which is that love is the greatest power there is. This love is everywhere and we are it. And so I know this to be the truth for each and every one of us, and I give thanks for this word. I give thanks for this prayer, releasing it into the activation of the law itself, and I know it is good. And so together let us just say Amen, Ashe, and so it is.